Please let me introduce to you Ania Pierzchała. She will talk about the power of people, organization, and culture as our greatest asset. So here you go.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm gonna share my screen. Sorry. Okay, is everything visible right now? Yeah, okay, it works. Hello, everyone. I'm very glad that I'm here today and have an opportunity to share my knowledge, my experience with such a group of amazing people. Thank you, Human Pokrok, for organizing this event for us. I think it's very challenging that we have first time this event in the online version. You're doing everything great. And I'm very happy that I'm here. So the topic of my today's lecture is the power of people, organizational culture as our greatest asset. And the main focus of my lecture will be on the topic of psychological safety. So, and I want to mention at the beginning that I'm a little bit stressed, probably as every single speaker here, but it will be better after a few minutes, I think. So let's start. At the beginning, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Anna Pierzchała. I'm HR manager in Anima International. My animal rights journey started in 2014 when I joined Otwarte Klatki in Poland as a volunteer in one of our local groups. And since 2017, I have an opportunity to work for the animals. So right now it's my full-time job. I graduated in psychology and history. I'm bookworm, I love running. And one of my greatest achievements in the movement was putting chicken mask upside down on the protest, which what I'm gonna show you in the next slides. So I was a unicorn instead of a chicken. And the plan for today's meeting is written here. I divided this meeting into 3 parts. In the first one, I would like to tell you a few words about the structure of our organization. In the second one, I will be more focused on the main topic of my presentation, which is psychological safety and its importance for effective teamwork. And at the end, I'm gonna share with you a few practical tips. How to build a psychological safety space in your organization or in your groups that you lead. So, okay, let's start from the first part. Here on the map, you can see the local groups that we have in Poland. We established 15 local groups around the whole country in the biggest cities. So like our structure in the organization based on the grassroots, based on the volunteers, and based on the people who work on the local level. And the structure of local groups is that every single local group has 2 coordinators. And the first person is so-called by me HR coordinator. Is a person who has, I think, good interpersonal skills because it's a person responsible for the people in the local group. So the main responsibility of HR coordinator are training new volunteers, introducing them to the group and organization, and of course, team building activities. And we also have task coordinators. And I think that this role requires good organizational skills because this person is responsible for keeping up with the deadlines, organizing group meetings, checking task progress, and this whole organizational part of our work. So every single local group has from 10 to 40 people. So that gives us around 400 people in the organization in Poland. I mentioned about the local level of work, which is about the local groups who organize events and actions locally. And we have also national level of work. And I think that many of our volunteers, they work both on the local and national level of work. We try to encourage the best people, the most responsible and well-working people to be more engaged also on the national level of work, to be engaged in campaign, to coordinate more responsible tasks. So like we have this local level and national one. And on the national level of work, we have also groups connected with campaigns, task groups like fundraising group, like social media, blog, translation, graphics, films, and many, many others. I think that many of our campaigns have also groups within it. So I think that our organization strongly based on the grassroots, but also our work is divided into many, many teams. So if we work in the organization in many teams, I think that it's very, very important to be focused on creating strong teams, creating effective teams, and create the teams that can really make a change for the animals, because we want to be effective. We want to achieve our goal as fast as possible. And I think that's something very, very important in animal rights movement. Before I will tell you more about the psychological safety topic, I want to start with a small anecdote. In our organization, we had a volunteer. She was a very, very hardworking and smart girl. And in some aspects, I realized that she was working really, really well in one team and couldn't find a place in another. And I know, as I said to you before, I know some personal characteristics of her. I know that she was smart. So like I started to look for a reason, not in her skills, in her personality, but more in how both teams were working. And in that time, when I started to wonder about this issue, I found very, very interesting research made by Google. It was called ARISTOTLE project. So Googlers tried to find the answer for what makes team effective. And at the beginning, they thought that they will find like a perfect combination of personal features. So they reached almost 180 attributes of almost 200 teams. And like what they thought, like maybe if we will find like a perfect combination, I don't know, of introverts and extroverts, that will give us a recipe for a perfect team, a perfect teamwork, and like maybe some kind of recipe for efficiency in the team. So that's why they started this research. But after all, they found that they were mistaken, because after this research, the results showed them that the teamwork is not influenced by individual characteristics. And how the team work, what are the rules, what is the efficiency, is not about individual people, but it's more about the working culture and the principles that are developed in it. And during this research, they found the keys that makes team effective. So here I pointed out all of them, and they are called the 5 keys to effective teamwork by Google. And it's psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning of work, and impact of work. And on the next slides, I would like to explain you more every single factor here. But the main focus will be on the psychological safety because they found out that this one was much more important than the others that I mentioned here. So I was wondering how to explain it, like every single factor here. So I decided to create you like a list with the question. So under every single factor on my slides, you can, there is a question, and if you can answer of the question positively, that means that the factor is on the high level in your team. And I think that sometimes maybe this kind of question might be even a better definition of something. So you can answer about the psychological safety. Do we take risks in the team without feeling insecure or embarrassed? Will the team support us if we make a mistake? So if we can answer positively on this question, that means that our team has high psychological safety level. The next one is dependability. Can we rely on each other to do the quality work on time? And again, if we can answer positively on this question, that means that dependability is on the high level in our team. Then third one is structural clarity. Are the roles, goals, plan in the team clear to everyone? So it's more like about organizing things, not teams, is about task division. And again, if you can answer positively on this question, then it means that the structural clarity is on the high level in your team. Impact of work. And I think that we are quite good with this one in animal rights movement. With this one and the next one, do we believe that the work we do matters? So I think that we are like in very good position with this one in animal rights movements. And the last one is meaning of work. Are we working on something that is personally important to each of us? So I think we are also quite good with this one. And the most important factor from the list was psychological safety. And I'm going to tell you a few words more about it. And here I put the definition of psychological safety to understand it a little bit better. So psychological safety is a shared belief that the team is safe when someone takes risk. It can be defined as the ability to show to the team members ourselves, ideas, worries, notes, without worrying about the negative consequences of our status or career. And I think that also very good question to understand what the psychological safety is like probably all of us had a situation where when we wanted to ask the question, but we were afraid. And if you ever had this kind of situation in your life, that means that you are not in the psychologically safety space. I had a situation like that many times. I'm glad that I don't have it anymore in the groups that I work with. But I think that it shows very well dynamic in the groups which are not psychologically safe. And the consequences of the high level of psychological safety in the teams influence the teamwork, influence the efficiency, and when the team is psychologically safe, members think less about the potential negative consequences of expressing a new or different ideas. So, like, we can discuss more things. We are open to discussion. We are open to evaluate our work. So that gives us a lot of benefits on the level, on the organizational level, on the group level. I think on the many levels that we work in. And many times I had many situations in my life when people a little bit misunderstood what psychological safety is. So here I wanted to point out the most often mistakes which happen. I found it in a book, The Fearless Organization, and I think that the first one is like very popular thing. So maybe I will explain every single one a little bit more, also to give you some kind of understanding what psychological safety is not. So psychological safety is not about being nice. And working in psychologically safe space doesn't mean that people always agree with one another and because they want to be nice. It doesn't also mean that people support you with everything what you have to say. Psychological safety is more about creating a space for constructive disagreement and exchanging creative ideas. So psychological safety is not about being nice for the other people, definitely not. Psychological safety is not a personality factor. That's the other maybe misunderstanding of this term. Some people interpreted psychological safety as the syndrome of extroversion. Maybe they thought that, or they concluded that people don't speak up at work because they are shy or less confidence, or simply just prefer to keep their ideas for themselves. However, research shows that the psychological safety has no correlation with extroversion or introversion. It refers to the work climate. The next one is, I think, is a little bit similar to the previous one. Psychological safety is not just another word for trust. And the difference between psychological safety and trust is that trust, they have much in common, to be honest, but they are not the same concepts. I mean, a key to the difference between the psychological safety and trust is that psychological safety is experienced on the group level. So like trust is more about the individual level. I mean, you can trust someone, but like psychological safety is like feeling of the trust, but it's on the group level, not individual one. And the last one, psychological safety is not about lowering performance standards. So it's not about being comfortable at work. It's not about keeping high standards of it's also about keeping high standards of meetings, managing or keeping up the deadlines. It's is very important because the psychological safety helps us setting ambitious goals and working towards them together as a team. So I think that generally psychological safety is connected with being ambitious, is connecting with doing great things together and helping each other to achieve this goal, evaluate our work, and be open to the criticism. And if we want to create efficient team, we should always think about also creating work environment based on psychological safety. And here I wrote down 9 signs that your organization or your group has low psychological safety. I'm gonna read this whole list. The first one is people don't ask many questions during the meetings. Probably, maybe, because they are afraid to speak up or ask the question. And I think that this kind of behavior, like it really won't help us with our work evaluation. The second one, people don't feel comfortable or owning up to mistakes or blame other people for the mistakes that they made. So it's like, okay, it's not my fault, it's someone else, but it's definitely not because of me. The third one is that the team avoids difficult conversation and hot button topics. The next one is coordinators and team leaders tend to dominate meeting discussions. So, and I think that it happens quite often when like leaders or coordinators dominate in a group. And I feel that like well-working groups are groups where the voice is given people equally and people speak equally. So, and everyone is engaged in a conversation or discussing the ideas. Feedback is not frequently given or requested. And I think this one is quite understandable. People don't support other teams and are strongly focused only on their responsibilities. That's the next one. People don't ask one another for help when they need it. So it's like, I won't ask someone for help because I don't want other people to see me as an incompetent person. And I'm kind of afraid that people might see me like that. What's the next on the list? There are hardly any disagreements or different points of view. So like when you have like a team, when everyone agrees, like people agree one another, that's also might be some kind of the warning sign. And the last one, people don't know one another personally. And I think that the team building, knowing each other personally, creating like boundaries between the people in the team is also something what really affects the effective teamwork and helps us create a psychologically safety teams. And here I wrote down some ideas how to create a psychologically safe team. The first one is to be transparent with your mistakes. I think that this this advice might be quite important for leaders. I think that very often leaders are some kind of the role models in their teams. So if the team members see that leaders share their failures openly, then they see that, okay, there's a space to make mistakes in the team. And making mistakes is also a part of learning for every one of us. And I feel that even like when I'm sharing my mistakes, that also gives others people opportunity to avoid it, to avoid something wrong what I did. So I feel that it's very, very important. And I think that the role of the leaders in creating like a safe space for sharing mistakes is crucial here. So the next point, let people make mistakes, is a process of learning. And I think it's a totally normal thing that all of us make mistakes. Compliment people in the public to make good norms, but what is important, only if you mean it. Like if we want to compliment people publicly or private, we should be honest with that. I think that the worst thing what might damage like the norms in the group, the culture of the organization, is not being honest with our compliments, with praising people for their good work. So like that's why I wanted to point it out that we compliment people only if we mean it. Because on the other hand, we are not honest people, and that's something what might destroy the whole organizational culture. Never ever criticize people in the public. That's the rule that I follow. And if I want to say something to someone, I always do this privately. I think it's really, I think it creates very bad work climate if we criticize people publicly, because other team members, they might feel unsafe in this kind of situation. Let people speak. Don't silence people who you disagree with. Be open for different opinions. That's the next one. Ask people for their opinions, especially leaders, again. I think that it might help people feel more confident, show them that we care about their opinions and they are important for us. And I think that like also the other thing with this point is that as leaders, we might be biased in many situations, we might be biased. So like, I think that asking other people's about the opinions might help us evaluate our work, evaluate our thinking and our strategy, basically everything, because we might be biased. The next one is care about team building. Let people just be friends. So I think that in Poland, we are very focused on it, especially on not only on the local level, but also on the local level. It's like really after the local groups meetings, people just hang out somewhere for a beer. They know each other personally. They like each other. So I think like it's much, much easier to make a better change in the group who know in the group where everyone knows each other. And I think it's like a team building. It's something that gives us a lot of benefits to create a real change for the animals. Discuss the idea, evaluate your work with the team, and be helpful for other people. Like you don't always need to wait if someone asks you for help. Like you can offer help to the team members, ask them if they need your help, if they need your advice or something like that. And in ARIMA International, we are totally okay that we make mistakes, and that's the photo that I promised. It's a street work action from the Ukraine. It's probably one of the best things that I ever made. So I put my mask upside down and I was the unicorn, as you can see. And I think that's like, it's one of the most epic failures that we ever had in ARIMA International. And I'm really like, I feel that after 2 years, it's still same funny as it was. And I love this picture, and I love to share this picture with other people. At the end, I wanted to point out also some of the problematic issues. Okay, after this photo, there are many messages on on the chat right now. I don't know, guys, what you're writing, but something funny probably. I regret that I cannot see it. I wanted to also point out some problematic issues connected with psychological safety, because I told you only about some benefits and how it influenced the effective teamwork. So the first bad message is that it takes a lot of time to develop psychological safety in a team. And it's not about like 1 week, 2 weeks. It's not about even 3 months. It might take you half of a year. It's normal, like team building is a process. It takes some time, but it's an effort that totally pays off. So it's not like you're gonna see the results of your work after a few weeks. It takes some time. And the second thing is that it's very dangerous to transfer norms and standards from a team in which psychological safety is high to the team in which it is low. Because people, like, I think that in the psychological safety teams, people are very open to the criticism, to evaluate the work, to discuss the ideas. And it's normal thing to ask the question, to questioning some opinions and so on. And I think that in a team in which psychological safe is on the low level, people might treat this kind of behaviors as something personal. So I think sometimes it's like, it might be dangerous to copy some rules which are in the psychological safety space to the team in which psychological safe is not developed yet. And I think that in a culture of the organization is something crucial to effective team building, and the psychological safety, building a psychological safety is a part of the working culture. And I have a quite strong opinion that sometimes team is more important than so-called superstars. When superstars are problematic for a team. I had I had a few situations when I had a choice to keep someone in the group who was skilled, but this person created a lot of conflict within a group and was totally not cooperative. So like I had to choose, should I keep this person or just let her go? And I think that in the situation when you have like a skilled person who are problematic for the group, for the other people, group should go first. And on the other hand, people might just live quietly. So like, even if you have this kind of situation, think about it. What is the best choice for the group, for your team, and how this person influence the working culture, the rules in the group, and so on. And I think that the conclusion from everything what I wanted to share with you is that you don't always need to find the best people for your organization, but you need to create the organization that helps them become the best. And I think that's the best sum up of everything what I wanted to share with you. I think that we are totally able to create the strong teams to develop strong working culture, which gonna help us create a real social change and better world for the animals. And we should just invest in it. And I got the question how we can measure when I had this presentation about like a topic of effective teamwork, I got the question about how can we measure the psychological safety. And there are only a few tools for measuring it. So I just wanted to mention you that there is a tool created by Amy Edmondson. It contains like 7 questions on the scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is probably strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree. You can find it on the internet. It's totally available, but like the bad news are that there are only few tools that can help you measure the psychological safety in your team, but the good one that they are, and we can use it. So once again, you can use the survey, the questionnaire made by Amy Edmondson if you want to measure the level of psychological safety in your teams. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this lecture, I'm kind of bookworm, so I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't recommend you some book recommendations in the topic of psychological safety. So here are my favorite ones. The first one is The Fearless Organization by Amy Edmondson, the same women who made this questionnaire that I mentioned before. And the second one is Psychological Safety, the Key to Happy, High-Performing People and the Teams. And if I would choose, I think that I liked Fearless Organization more, so I can definitely recommend more this one. And that's all for me. I think we have still 10 minutes for Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anya, and you are exactly right. We have precisely 10 minutes and some seconds more. I would like to remind you all to keep your mics muted and post your questions to Slido. Remember to post to the right room. This is the room number 1. You can choose it on the right top if you're using a browser. So please post your questions there and we will get right to them. So we have 3 questions already. Let's go with the first one. Besides changing the environment around people to be safer and supportive, do you also have ideas for how individuals can become more brave and confident?
I think that maybe it's something what we, okay, so I will try to answer from this question based on my personal experience, maybe. I think that is very, very important to compliment people for their good work, especially girls. And I feel that if you are a leader, you can really make people more confident by giving positive feedback, which is very important in the organization, but also create a good norms, like a good group norms. You show to the other people what is very important and what really matters in the organization.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to another question. What do you mean exactly when you say strong teams? Are the ones that are high in psychological safety, effective teams?
I think both, like effective and psychological safe. I mean, like psychological safety is very correlative with team's effectiveness. So like I feel that is both, and like both things are like correlated one with another.
Okay, thank you. Quote, people don't support other teams, are strongly focused on their own responsibilities, end of quote. Why this lowers the psychological safety of organization?
Can I cannot find, can you write it down somewhere? Okay.
I can post it in chat probably.
Okay, it will
or
be
the other
great.
option is okay, give me a second.
It will be easier for me to answer and the code will be visible. People
Okay,
don't
it's in the chat.
their teams are strongly focused on their own responsibilities. Why this lowers the psychological safety in the organization? Yeah, so I feel that when we build the organization, like we shouldn't think about the organization from the perspective of our own team and from the perspective of the one group. I think like the norms that we create in our team also influence the working culture in the organization. But I feel that everything what I mentioned should be also like a level upper. So like if we want to rely one on another, then I think we should be also helpful for the other people in the organization.
Okay, thank you. What situation was the most difficult one for you as an HR manager so far? How did you solve it?
I think that the most difficult situation was when I had to say one girl that she shouldn't coordinate the local groups because her personal features, skills, and characteristics are just not good for it. And like she was a person who wasn't like aware of it, like aware that her skills are suitable for something completely different, and we can use it much better for in the organization. And like I think that was a very long conversation, and I think that the most hard situations were always connected with volunteers, because very often like I really care about them personally. I really appreciate that they work in their free time. So I think that that was one of the most difficult, but in general, I feel that like the discussion with the volunteers or the situation when I had to remove someone from the organization and this person was a volunteer, I think that, yeah, like all the most difficult situations were connected with volunteers and volunteering management.
Thank you. This is a sort of connected question. What is the best way to deliver constructive criticism to other team members? And what is the best way to react to criticism?
What is the okay, so I think that okay, it really depends on the situation, I think, because I feel that it depends if we criticize some ideas and just want to discuss it, or we just criticize someone's behavior and something what is like more personal and people might treat it more personally. And I think that like what is important for me is to give like negative feedback people privately. And of course, I always try to be honest with that. I know that sometimes it's quite difficult. So I try to mention something positively also, but only when I mean it, like, but I didn't have any situation when I just had to tell to someone like only negatives. So like, I try to also mention something more positively. When it goes about like the criticizing of someone ideas, I feel that it's really dependable on the psychological safety level. So I think it's quite hard to create like a safe space for this kind of discussion in the teams in which it's on the low level. So I would say like if we want to like evaluate or criticize some ideas on the group level, like we should develop this climate of psychological safety level and people feel safe. I think it's more about creating some kind of the work climate that, you know, just read some kind of books how to give a negative feedback and use some kind of written phrases and so on. I feel that being honest is crucial here, but to be honest, we need to develop or create a space when people are not feel, I don't know, in dangers, or maybe not in dangers, but not comfortable because of that.
Thank you. I think we have time only for one more question, and this one looks very good. When a team have had low psychological safety for a long time, how can this be solved?
I think, I think it's a good one question. I'm wondering if that makes like any difference of between like a team who which has like had a low psychological safety for a long, and a team who just maybe didn't have it and were somewhere in the middle on this like scale, let's say, of psychological safety. I think that the recipe for it will be similar for this, what I mentioned, but probably it's gonna take much more time to develop the principles, the rules for the psychological safety team when people didn't feel safe for a long time. So I guess it might cost much more time and effort to develop a psychological safety space.
Okay, thank you, Anya. I think we are running out of time, so it is the good time to unmute yourself, everyone, and give Anya a big round of applause.